Today, we're diving into what is, without a doubt, one of the most important science books and TV shows ever made, Carl Sagan's masterpiece, Cosmos. It literally changed how millions of people saw the universe.
So let's just jump right in with the big ones, right? These are the ultimate questions. The artist Paul Gauguin famously painted them on a canvas, but we're going to tackle them through the eyes of science's absolute greatest storyteller. You know, when you're dealing with questions that big, you need a guide. And for this journey, our guide is the one and only astrophysicist Carl Sagan.
And that quote really tells you everything you need to know about the kind of impact this work had. For so many people, this wasn't just another science book. No way. It felt like an essential guide, a user's manual for understanding the universe, and, our place in it all.
See, the thing about Sagan was, he wasn't just a brilliant scientist working with NASA on these incredible missions to other planets. He had this other, almost magical gift. He could take the biggest, most complicated ideas about the universe and make them feel, well, personal. He made it all feel wondrous and accessible to everybody.
And what's really amazing is that this whole lifelong passion of his started with a funny little misunderstanding when he was just a kid. He went to the library and asked for a book about stars. And, well, they handed him a book about movie stars. And he had to explain, no, I mean the real stars. That moment, that little spark of curiosity, set him on a mission for the rest of his life.
So, okay, let's get back to that first huge question. What are we? And to even get started on an answer, Sagan says we have to first get a handle on where we are. Think about it. When you go outside on a really clear night and you just look up at all those stars, it feels like you're seeing them right now, in this very moment. It's like a perfect snapshot of the present. But here's the mind-bending part. You're not. You're actually looking back in time. The universe is so unbelievably big that the light from those stars has been traveling for thousands, sometimes millions of years just to reach your eyes. It's like looking at cosmic ghosts. To even try to measure these distances, we needed a whole new kind of ruler, the light year. And remember, that's not a unit of time, it's a unit of distance. It's how far light zips through space in a year, which is almost 10 trillion kilometers. It's just a staggering number. So what about the closest star to us? Not counting our own sun. It's 4.3 light years away. Now let that sink in. The light you see from that star tonight, it actually left that star over 4 years ago. We are always looking at an echo of what was. And the scale just keeps getting bigger in this way that's almost impossible to wrap your head around. Our galaxy, the Milky Way, it has something like 400 billion stars. But here's the kicker. That's just our home. Scientists think there are at least 400 billion other galaxies out there. The numbers are just astronomical. When you're faced with that kind of vastness, it's totally normal to feel a little small, maybe even a little bit overwhelmed. The philosopher Blaise Pascal said it perfectly hundreds of years ago. It's a feeling of awe, but it's also kind of terrifying. Okay, so understanding our place brings us to the next big question. Where do we come from? And for Sagan, the answer is this incredible story of evolution, a story that happens on a cosmic scale, with stars, and on a biological scale, right here on Earth.
So first up, you have cosmic evolution. One of the wildest things we figured out is that stars aren't forever. They have life cycles. They're born from these huge clouds of gas. They burn for billions of years, and then they die. And when they die, they explode and scatter all the elements needed to make new stars, new planets, and us. And then, of course, you've got evolution right here on our own planet. And it turns out, sometimes that story gets shaped by some really surprising and really human forces. Which brings us to this little guy, the Heike crab from Japan. I mean, look at it. The pattern on its shell looks almost exactly like the face of an angry samurai warrior. Is that just a crazy coincidence? How in the world did that happen?
Well, the answer is this amazing mix of history and biology. The legend says that after a huge sea battle, local fishermen started catching crabs with these weird face patterns. They thought the crabs were the reincarnated souls of the drowned samurai, so out of respect, they'd throw them back into the ocean. So, over the centuries, guess which crabs were the most likely to survive and have babies? The ones with the clearest samurai faces. So, here's the main takeaway. This isn't just a cool story. It's a real-world, tangible example of what scientists call artificial selection. The fishermen, without even meaning to, became the driving force of evolution for this crab species. They literally shaped what it looks like today. So, from the birth of stars to the face on a crab, Sagan shows us where we are and where we've come from. He shows us that we're not just living in the universe, we're a part of it and we can even influence it. And all of that brings us to the last and maybe the most important question. Where are we going? Now, Sagan didn't give us the answer to that because, well, the answer is up to us. But his work, his journey, it didn't end with him. The legacy of Cosmos was so powerful that it was brought back for a whole new generation, this time hosted by Neil deGrasse Tyson, an astrophysicist who was actually a protege of Sagan's. The torch was passed. In the end, what Sagan did so brilliantly was connect the dots between the hard facts of science and the wonder we all feel when we look up at the stars. He showed us that the epic story of the cosmos isn't some foreign tale. It's our story. It's the story of all of us. And that brings us right back to where we started, with a question. Sagan's most famous lesson is that we are made of star stuff. The very atoms that make you were forged inside stars that exploded billions of years ago. Knowing that we are literally children of the cosmos, gives us both an incredible sense of belonging and a huge responsibility. So the real question isn't just where we're going. It's what will we choose to do with that amazing cosmic inheritance.
Okay, let's dive in. There are some books that they change everything. And Carl Sagan's Cosmos is definitely one of them. Today we're going to journey through some of its biggest, most mind-blowing ideas. Ideas that connect you and me to the stars in ways you probably never expected.
So let's kick things off with a question I'm sure you've been asked a million times, maybe even at a party last weekend. Hey, what's your sign? Right? It's kind of the go-to way for us to feel some kind of personal connection to what's going on up there in the night sky.
And that question, it leads us right to a really, really important distinction. A lot of us hear stars, and we immediately think of astrology. You know, the idea that the planet's positions when you were born shape your whole destiny. But cosmos, well, that's all about astronomy, the actual science. And the gap between those two things, it's cosmic. Literally.
So how do we start to wrap our heads around that massive difference? We've got to go back to basics. Back to the very first thing humanity ever really saw up there, the constellations. For thousands of years, we've been connecting the dots, trying to find meaning. But what we're about to see is that those patterns, they're hiding a pretty incredible illusion.
Okay, so get this. When you look up and see, say, the Big Dipper, you think those stars are all together, right? Like a little stellar neighborhood? But they're not. Not even close. It's a total optical illusion. One of those stars might be relatively close to us, while the one right next to it in the Dipper is actually hundreds of light years deeper in space. They have nothing to do with each other. It's just a pattern that exists from one perspective and one perspective only, ours, right here on Earth.
And this whole idea of finding the real picture, not just the pretty illusion, that's the heart of the title Cosmos. See, the word itself is Greek for order. It's the exact opposite of chaos. So astronomy isn't just about looking at pretty lights, it's the search for the deep, underlying rules that make the universe tick. Fun fact, the word cosmetic comes from the same root. It's all about creating order out of chaos, whether it's on your face or across the universe.
But you know, figuring out this cosmic order, it wasn't just some hobby for ancient philosophers. Not at all. For our ancestors, this was serious business. It was literally a matter of life and death.
Think about it. Before we had clocks or calendars on our phones, we had the sky. The stars told you exactly when to plant your crops. They told you when the great herds were going to migrate. They were your GPS for navigating the open ocean. This knowledge was so incredibly powerful that it was often kept secret, right? It was called the study of kings. If you could predict the seasons, you could control the food, and that means you could control the people.
So yeah, there's a comforting order to the cosmos. But there's another side to it. A side that is huge, powerful, and frankly, does not care about us one bit. And Cosmos is a powerful reminder that our little world, well, it's a lot more fragile than we like to admit.
Let's go back to 1908. We're in a super remote part of Siberia, a place called Tunguska. Not a lot of people around. And then, something happened in the sky that was a brutal wake-up call about just how vulnerable we really are.
Some kind of object from space, probably a piece of a comet or an asteroid, came screaming into our atmosphere. Now here's the crazy part. It never even touched the ground. It exploded in midair. But the shockwave from that explosion alone flattened over 2,000 square kilometers of forest. Just gone.
To put that in perspective, that's an area bigger than Jeju Island, just wiped clean off the map. The explosion was so bright, so powerful, that people in London, thousands of kilometers away, could apparently read a newspaper outside at midnight from the glow it created in the sky. That's just mind-boggling. So what makes something like that so destructive? It all comes down to pure, insane speed. This thing was moving at roughly 30 kilometers per second. That's nearly 100 times the speed of sound. When something that fast hits our atmosphere, all that kinetic energy gets converted into a blast with the power of a massive nuclear bomb.
And it's terrifying events like that one that really drove Carl Sagan to champion what he called the cosmic perspective. This isn't just a side note in the book. This idea is the absolute heart of Cosmos.
So what is this cosmic perspective? Well, imagine you're floating out in space, looking back at Earth. It's just a pale blue dot, as Sagan famously called it. From way out there, you don't see any borders. You can't see the lines we've drawn on maps. All our big, important conflicts, all the things we fight and die for. From that distance, they start to look like a tempest in a teacup. It forces you to zoom out, to step back from all the tribalism, all the us versus them. It encourages you to see that we are all, every single one of us, just passengers on this one tiny, fragile ship. It shifts your thinking from us versus them to simply us. And once you make that mental shift, it leads you to what might be the single most beautiful and profound idea in the entire book, our connection to the cosmos. It's not just a nice thought. It's not poetry. It's literal. It's physical. It's inside of you, right now.
Okay, get ready for this. We are literally made of stardust. The calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, every single atom of carbon that makes up your body, none of it was made here on Earth. It was all forged in the super hot core of a giant star that lived and died billions of years ago. When that star exploded, it scattered those precious elements across space, and eventually that stardust came together to form our planet, and to form us. We are, quite literally, the children of the stars.
When you really let that sink in, that you are made of ancient stars, it's incredibly humbling. It makes you rethink your place in the universe. But it also makes you rethink your place right here, on this planet, with all the other life we share it with. Which leads Sagan to ask a really challenging question. Take the whale, for example. Here's this massively intelligent creature that evolved in a world completely alien to ours, the deep ocean. We tend to be a little arrogant, right? We think intelligence has to look like us. But what if there's another kind of intelligence, just as profound, that we're completely missing?
Whales sing. They create these incredibly complex songs with low-frequency sounds that can travel across entire oceans. These aren't just simple calls. They are long, structured compositions. Some scientists say they contain as much information as one of our epic poems, like the Iliad or the Odyssey. And the tragedy is, our noise, the sound of our ships and submarines, is starting to drown them out. We're silencing them before we've even begun to understand what they're saying.
So, when you put it all together, understanding that we're made of stars, knowing that our world is fragile, and realizing that we share this planet with other incredible intelligences, it all boils down to one final huge question from Sagan. And this one isn't just for scientists or politicians, it's for every single one of us. In this unimaginably vast cosmos, who will speak for Earth?